whether we can come up with a more profound mission statement, whether that's what's needed, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think well, one of the things one of the sensitivities that exists is that the school as an institution may be somewhat suspect or feel challenged in some way by the existence of a John Corlette, and how do we relate to in that regard. And I guess my own personal answer would be is we're here to support. It's not a competitive issue. It's we're here to support, identify with people who have a profound appreciation for the philosophy that underlies EGLA on a day-to-day basis, and that's not about competing for resources or trying to tell them what they should or should not be doing. But at the same time, I think there is an increasing preoccupation with the putting up of buildings and budgets and funding and so forth, which is important. But that's there should also be someone or some organization that's looking at the larger picture, and the picture that has more to do with the educational philosophy than the management issues. But again, these are early days and initial kind of thoughts and comments. I don't know. I hope that there will be many more members of the society that will contribute and add their own personal thoughts and suggestions in terms of where the society should go and how it should best support the JC philosophy.
I think you're right that the school, the powers that be at the school at the moment feel that they might be being challenged, or they're not too sure. They're not too sure why anybody is really that interested in what's going on in the school, or how they're doing their job.
Right.
I think it's a human trait that when people take over jobs, they tend to think that they know what they're doing, they know what they want to do, and they're going to get on with it. Well, I think the problem with the school at the moment, what I understand of the school and what I hear, is that the people that are now running the school have never actually experienced the JC philosophy firsthand, either as a student or as a teacher. And the school has been run as a business, and JC never saw it as that. JC saw it as a completely different light.
I think that's correct. I think agree with just about the entirety of what you just said, and I think that brings us around to kind of the idea of talking to a lot of disaffected alumni that are saying, I really believed in the impact that the JC approach and his or her personal experience going through the EGLA educational system, and that they want to continue to see that being maintained, enhanced, and valued. And so I think that's where kind of a John Corlette Society kind of takes out perhaps part of the equation, which is like, we've got to fill beds, and this is the only way we know how to do it. And the raw economics, which I think are depending on who's talking, you hear many different theories about that. I'm not sure that any one person or there is any objective approach to how the school should be progressing. Should it go to 400, 500? Should it have satellite schools and so forth and so on? And to
fairly sure JC would not really have wanted the school to get much bigger than, as I say, 250, 300. And I think that the idea that there were satellite schools around the world would have probably gone down quite well. He certainly didn't see that the school needed to be expanding to get so large that it lost some of its, it became in any way impersonal for any of the students or any of the staff, for that matter. And there's no doubt about it that once a school gets to a certain size, you're dealing with so many people, it becomes impossible for one member of staff to know everybody, or one student to know everybody. Whereas I'm sure when you were there, you knew most of the people who were there.
Yeah, absolutely, no question about it. And I think that was one of the very special experiences and bonds that were formed at that time. Yeah, far greater than perhaps at the university level or advanced studies and so forth. People say, "Oh no, I go to my college reunions," but Eglon means so much more to me because of these very special relationships that were formed. Part of that being, I think, as you say, is the size, reflects the size of the school. I mean, what intrigues me is, I think, you mentioned at an early point, the teacher-student ratio at Eglon now is something like 5 to 1. And I kind of question that as to, first of all, depending on how you put the numbers together, what in fact you mean by staff. Is there a big administrative staff in place now, which certainly was not the case in the past? Or does it reflect the fact that I think more than 2/3 of the students at Eglon now do not speak English as their native language, and as they get to more challenging subjects, it becomes a lot more difficult for them to succeed and progress through the school, and therefore there's a greater need for support services. Has someone, as an educator, really taken a closer look at that in terms of saying, okay, our biggest population for future students is from China, former Soviet Union, India, different parts of the world where the parents and the families are able to fund this high tuition fee that's being asked, and yet there's also a cost inherent in that, which is what support services do you need to provide to ensure that these children have a successful educational outcome at the end of the 4 years or whatever time that they're there. I would hope that the governors are dealing with this issue and I'm sure well aware of it, but not only from the educational point, but also from the economics, because as Eglon approaches whatever 100,000 a year for tuition, it just seems extraordinarily high, and I think again it just where there are a lot of good schools.
Where did that figure